No smoker, dehydrator, or even a jerky gun? No problem. So you want to make your own jerky at home, but you don't have a dehydrator, you don't have a smoker, maybe you don't even have a jerky gun. This method is going to show you how you can still make really good jerky at home without any of those special tools. All you're going to need is some ground beef, one of our jerky kits, and you'll be well on your way. We're going to be making a ground and formed jerky in the oven to dehydrate and cook. We're going to start with some really lean ground beef because we don't want too much fat in there, which is going to add moisture and slow down the dehydrating process. And we also have our honey BBQ Jerky Kit. Now this has the seasoning and cure, everything you need to make that jerky. Now the process is pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to season up our meat with our kit, and then we're going to put the meat down between 2 pieces of parchment paper. We're going to use a standard rolling pin to roll that out, cut it, and then we're going to set it in a very low temperature oven for a few hours to dehydrate it. Our jerky kits include everything you'll need to make the jerky. It has the seasoning packets and the cure, all set up for 5-pound batches. Today we're making a smaller 2.5-pound batch as opposed to the 5-pound batch that these bags are designed for. So I weighed out the proportions, 1 ounce of the jerky cure and 1 ounce of the honey BBQ jerky seasoning. And to our seasoning and cure, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of water. And that's just going to help distribute those seasonings and cure more evenly throughout the meat. And once that's well mixed, we're going to pour this right into our ground beef and get in there and start mixing. And then we want to mix that seasoning and cure in as well as we can. We don't want any spots that have too much seasoning, and vice versa, we don't want any spots that don't have enough seasoning. We want a really nice, even product. So you just keep folding the meat onto itself, kind of like you're kneading bread. So that looks pretty good. We have some pretty even coloration at this point, which means our seasoning is well distributed, and we're ready to start forming our jerky. For this process of rolling out the meat, we are going to lay a piece of parchment down on our countertop here. I'm going to take some meat, and then I'm going to take another piece of parchment and lay that on top. Then the rolling pin should easily be able to flatten that out to about 1/4, almost 1/8 of an inch thick, and then it'll be ready for the racks. So again, we're going to start about 5-6 ounces here, kind of make that, and we're going to set it right in the middle there, and I'm going to get another piece of parchment real quick to set on top. You can start that process with your hand just to get it to stick to the parchment a little bit so it won't slide all over the place. Then we're going to take our pin and start rolling. Just want nice even pressure across the whole surface so we have a nice even consistent product, and we want to bring it down to about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch thick. And there we go. Gently bring back the parchment. And there we are. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's pretty wafer thin, but that's going to be a nice piece of jerky once that gets cut up and cooked. At this point, there are a few different ways to handle getting this onto the rack, which we're going to put in the oven. Some people will cut it and then place those strips on the rack. What I like to do is I like to turn this out onto the rack right away, and then I'll put some scores in it. Once that gets dehydrated, we'll be able to see those lines and it'll easily break apart. So here we have a pretty standard cooling rack, and this is what we're actually going to put the jerky on for when it goes into the oven. Now, it sticks to the parchment pretty well, so we're just going to turn this out and flip, and then gently pull back this parchment, and we've got our first one. All right, now I'm just going to make those lines that I talked about so that once it's dehydrated, I know where to cut or break. And I'm just going to make these lines. I'm not going to cut all the way through. I'm just going to make little impressions. And I'm actually using the grid on the drying rack kind of as a template. Going right down. So we have some nice even sized pieces once these come out of the oven. So if you've had ground and formed jerky before, you know it generally comes in that flat strip shape. Another way to do it is to make sticks. I start out with a Ziploc bag that I've cut in half, and I'm just going to take a little bit of meat, say about 1 ounce, 1.5 ounces. I'm going to set it there. I'm going to roll the bag over the top and use a cutter to bring that back, and it's gonna create that stick shape that we're looking for. So it's kind of forcing the meat together, which will help avoid any air pockets. And then once you get the size and shape that you want, you can take it to your rack and just roll it right out. If you use this method, they will take a little longer to dehydrate, but it all just depends on what you want, what style you want, what shape you want, and how much time you have. Now that we have our jerky all formed, we are ready to go straight into the oven for dehydration. Unlike the whole muscle method, ground and formed jerky already has the cure and seasoning mixed into the meat, therefore we do not need to let it sit in the cure overnight. And from this point, we're gonna go directly into a 180-degree oven. Most dehydrators and smokers you're gonna set between the 155 and 175 range. Our oven only goes down to about 180. So we're gonna set it at that temperature. And the most important part is we're gonna prop that oven door open about 1 inch. If you think about smokers and dehydrators, there's a lot of air circulation that helps with the dehydration process. We unfortunately don't have that set up with our oven, so we're gonna prop the door open to increase the airflow so that helps dry out our meat. Now once our jerky reached the appropriate dryness and texture that we were looking for, I took some paper towel and I blotted the extra fat that accumulates on the top. If you let that fat stay on there, as it cools, it's going to create a fat cap that sticks to the jerky, and that's just something we really don't want. After that, we let it rest in the oven with the oven turned off for about 2 hours, just to come down to temperature, more room temperature, slower, so you don't shock the meat after it comes out of the oven. After which, we set it in the cooler for about 2 hours on top of that, and now we're ready to break our strips. So we made those lines in our formed jerky here, and all we're gonna do is bend across those lines to kind of create that crease, and then we're gonna break off our strips of jerky. When all said and done, this was about an 8-hour process from cook to finish. Now, one of the reasons why I chose honey barbecue as a flavor is because of the natural smoking flavors that it has, but we didn't have to use a smoker to achieve that. We were able to do this in one setting without any special equipment, and we still made a really good product that you can be happy to share with your friends, family, or just, kind of keep for yourself. This product will be good in your fridge for about 2 weeks, and that's where you want to keep it. You can also cryovac it and throw it in your freezer for about 6 months. For our honey barbecue jerky kit, as well as other flavors in jerky kits, head to psseasoning.com to check out more. Until next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.